We're at the midway point of the NBA season, and we have a midseason assessment of your Utah Jazz today, a blunt and honest look at the big picture, the core pieces, developmental pieces, and the veterans, and how it impacts the trade deadline. It's all coming up on today's edition of Locked on Jazz. Pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Today's show, it is the mid-season assessment show of the Utah Jazz. After two losses to Oklahoma City and Houston, we will look at the big picture, what Will Hardy has built, whether progress has been made, whether we're seeing the cultural things we want to see. The core pieces, we'll call that Lauri Markkanen, Collin Sexton, and John Collins. What have we learned about those three pieces and where they fit? The developmental six, I'll call it, which is Walker Kessler, Ochai Agbaji, Keyonte George, Taylor Hendricks, Luka Saanic, and Talen Horton-Tucker. And then the veteran four, Kelly Olynyk, Kris Dunn, Jordan Clarkson, and Simone Fontecchipo, and how they all fit with the trade deadline coming. We'll give an assessment of all that. Come up here on today's edition of Locked on Jazz. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. Now, please subscribe for free. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. So please hit the follow button or the subscribe button. And then on YouTube, hit that little bell button that notifies you whenever the show goes out. We greatly appreciate you for doing so. If you want to take an extra second, give us a 5-star review. Those are always loved. And on YouTube, that equivalent is the thumbs up button if you're watching the video. Thank you very much. And to the everydayers, you're the best. Thank you for making Locked On a part of your every single day. You can do that easily. We're here for you Monday through Friday for 30 minutes each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, halfway season assessment right now. The Jazz come into this. It's a little past, obviously, halfway as we come in at 22-22 on the season, a dead solid 500, one of the hotter teams in the NBA, currently 10th in the Western Conference, 9 games out of the lead spot, tied with the Lakers. Houston Rockets are still a game back. Warriors are 2 games back. And the Kings and the Suns have separated a little bit, 2.5 ahead of us. All right, but the Kings have lost 4 in a row and seem to be reeling. That's not where I would start on this, on the standings. That's where we sit, but I don't think that big picture we sit. Number one, I think that's the biggest positive of everything involved with the Utah Jazz right now is that we're competitive. Will Hardy's used a phrase a few times that losing cannot go numb. It cannot go numb on losing. Will has been, I think, fabulous and probably we're dying day to day with games. And I think in games, Will is dying game to day with games, but then has a perspective on things outside of the game, that where we are as a franchise, what's moving, what's happening, all those kind of things. But I think you can't have what Houston had the last 2 years. Like, you're watching Jalen Green just not having totally developed. You're watching their development so much better right now. And there is this interesting concept that if you actually look at rebuilds and where they've come from, more of them have come from the middle than the bottom. We can get into that a little bit. Zach Lowe alluded to this. The bottom, going purely to the bottom and bottoming out and acquiring all this and working your way up. Oklahoma City seems like they're on their verge. They've got 3 fabulous players. But if you actually, there's been a lot of teams who've tried this who stay down for a long, long time. So I think that's the first thing. And maybe the most important thing is that there's a competitiveness to this group and to the franchise still, to the way they're playing, and there's not a sham to the game. The second one is I think they've found things. The zone, the way they're playing offense, they've adjusted throughout the year. Will talks a lot about a trust being built amongst them that the players have to believe him and what he's doing, but it actually takes some time and some understanding and some trust for that to be built. And I think we've seen that. And the last one I think we've seen that's really the big picture most important is a culture and a buy-in. And maybe that's related to that. But, Will recently alluded to show love as kind of an underlying theme of this season. Last year was Team 49. We're seeing a young head coach who understands how to build a culture of a franchise and send you in the correct direction. And I think, from a big picture standpoint, do we have like leadership, culture, foundational aspects to that's leading the franchise in the right direction? If you don't have upper management, head coaching, ownership, leadership that's taking you in the right direction, it doesn't really matter, right? Oklahoma City certainly has that with Sam Presti and Mark Dagnall. We'll see on that ownership group. They actually haven't shown the ability to step through when they have to, and whether or not they have it. Well, you look at the build in various places. It will be interesting to see what has to be done. I think Milwaukee has. They're not in a rebuild anymore, but when they brought it up with John Horst and with Justin there for a while, I think you saw that, okay, you had the pieces, right? Mike Budenholzer was a fabulous head coach. So I think that, and they were pretty good by the time that happened. So I think you that's the key. So from the big picture assessment, I think things are rosy. And that is that you have the leadership, you have the culture, you have the buy-in, you have creativity, coaching, and you have competitiveness. And at the midseason, we're 22-22, which is better than most people expected. I think my numbers had us 11th or 10th in the West, which is kind of where we are. I also had Oklahoma City behind us. So tell me what are my numbers. The value of my numbers is maybe 0. And I think that's the big picture. That's really, really good. Now, the next steps of this assessment are, if you look at our foundational pieces or core pieces, or I don't think they're all necessarily like core pieces, probably. There's 3 guys that are 25, 26 years old. Lauri Markkanen, Collin Sexton, John Collins. And I don't have Simone in that group. I put Simone into the kind of the veteran group. Simone, with his background in his age, he's 28. So I don't know why that was the cutoff line, but just I did. So I think there's been some really big positives here as well. Don't worry, this is not going to be just a puff piece. There'll be some real honest assessments here coming up. So Lauri's gotten better, which is incredible. Last year was his first year as the go-to guy. He became an all-star starter by the end of it. And he has proven that there was not a single aspect of that was a fluke. He's literally has the exact same numbers he had a year ago in a circumstance that I think is far more difficult. He is shooting, instead of 49.9, he's shooting 49.6. Instead of shooting 39.1 from 3, he's shooting 39.3. His effective field goal percentage is actually up from 58.6 to 59.4. His free throw shooting is from 87.5 to 87.4. His rebounds are from 8.6 to 8.9. His assists are from 1.9 to 1.9. It's crazy. And his points are 25.6 to 24. So his points are down a time, but so are his minutes. He's down 2 minutes a game. He's been great. And he's been better than he was a year ago. He does not have Mike Conley. He did not have Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and some other veterans. He's been playing with a much younger group. He's been playing with a much more inconsistent point guard play. He has been asked to do much more. He's on the front page of scouting reports even more so than he was a year before. And he has been absolutely stepped up to the task and owned it. This kid is really, really special. He is probably not a top 10 player in the NBA. He is probably a top 10 athlete in the NBA. He is absolutely the real deal. He is a piece, fundamental, foundational piece of a championship team. He has the right attitude. He has the right approach. He has the right professionalism. He has the right will. He's a good teammate. He's incredible athletically. He's incredible hands. He's awesome. He's probably the 23rd, 24th best player in the NBA right now. And the question is whether he takes another jump on that and he's going to work at it because that is what Lauri is. So the two biggest wins of the season at the midway point are the big picture and Lauri Markkanen. Now from there, it gets a little bit more decision-making time, uncertainty, and part of what is honestly a process of build. It's not all easy answers, and we'll touch on those as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. Murdoch Hyundai is, well, it's a place where I've bought 3 cars. How's that? Like, I could just go that way. I love it. The SUV lineup is absolutely fabulous, from the Little Kona all the way to the Palisades, with the Tucson that I'm driving right now that's just been terrific, and the Santa Fe's, which we have bought for each of our children or each of their colleges as we speak right now. We also have the Ioniq 5 as one of our cars in our house, the electric award-winning Ioniq 5, and the absolutely sporty, gorgeous Ioniq 6 available for you as well. It's all at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. If you're going to head over to Murdoch Hyundai, please email me first to get their no regrets experience. But let's give you the special Locked On VIP treatment as well, and give it to you for being a Locked On everyday. So email me at dlock09@gmail.com if you're going to look for a car. I strongly suggest looking at a Hyundai, then you can decide. But for the dollars and the value and the safety features and all those things, there's not much better on the market than the Hyundais. And over at Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. If you're a small business owner, it takes a lot of time to do hiring. We know at Locked On, it is a quest all the time of suddenly we have to stop feeling like everything we're doing as a business if we're going to make a hire. So this is where you can take your business to the next level in 2024 with LinkedIn Jobs. They know that success depends on surrounding yourself with winners. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have to make many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. That's why LinkedIn is number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. LinkedIn.com/LockedOn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We greatly appreciate it. We have launched the first ever 24/7 national sports channel on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. It's also available on Amazon Fire, as well as on your News On if you use that app on Roku. Remember, all Jazz games available on Sirius XM. Your hometown feed is available for you on Sirius XM each and every game tomorrow. We're in New Orleans. All right. So the next two, kind of what I would call core pieces, only really based on age and acquisition and salary, are Collin Sexton and John Collins. And I think Collin Sexton has probably been the biggest discovery of the year. So while the two biggest positives have been the big picture and Lauri Markkanen, the discovery of the season has to be Collin Sexton. 8th in the NBA in drives, truly one of the most efficient guards in the NBA with an effective field goal percentage of 54.7. He is averaging 17 points a game. For the more recently, that number's up at about 21, 22. And while, yes, I think a lot of people talked about late game, his lack of size and some of those kind of things that happened against Houston exposed, I think that's probably true. I don't know that I think he's your starting shooting guard on a really, really good team, but he is a piece of a really, really good team. I'm very comfortable saying that. The fact that he's upped his threes to 4 a game and is shooting 38%, the fact that he is going to the free throw line an impressive 4.7 times per game, those are the pieces of an offensive star. He is an elite offensive player in the NBA. And there is a point where he may be coming off your bench at 6'1", 6'2". He obviously, it's a big running joke that he plays bigger. His assist rate is at 26% this year. It's never been higher. It was literally 14 and 15 his first 2 years in the NBA. This guy is making massive progress. to what he's doing as a player. He's in the 83rd percentile in points per shot attempt, while simultaneously being the 88th percentile in usage. Bona fide. Collin Sexton, I think. Now we'll see if somebody else thinks so at the trade deadline and offers you something that is absolutely out of that you have to think of. I think Collin Sexton, you've got yourself on this contract on where he is. I think he's proven to himself that when you start piecing together your puzzle pieces moving forward, this is one who's involved with it. That his rim finishing is elite at 68% for a guy whose size, and his three-point shooting, which is actually heavily based on his corner three-point shooting, probably could get a little better. His off-the-bounce shooting's not the greatest thing in the whole world, but he's small, but his defensive energy and tenacity and will are positive things to have on your basketball floor. Okay. We're not good when he's on the floor defensively. That's true. And that might be why being 6'2" on a championship level team would be awfully hard for him to be a starting shooting guard. However, that also might stem back to what the size, what's the size of your point guard? Like if you have a 6'6" point guard, well, then you can flip those two around and figure it out. The third one in this group is John Collins. And there has definitely been an uptick in John Collins' play as of late. It was really a struggle early on to kind of figure out how to get him comfortable, what he was going to do. When John Collins came to the Jazz, the assessment I got from people around the league is he was just truly an incredibly athletic, skilled tweener. And that is that at 6'9", he's probably best offensively as a center because he can roll and space for you. But defensively, he really has to play a 4 because he just doesn't have the capability to be a rim defender despite his incredible athleticism. And that actually has turned out to be one of the best assessments that I've heard from anyone on John Collins. There is a point where you've been in the league for 6 years and teams kind of they have figured. And as we moved him to center, the team has been much better with him on the floor. He had a terrible run of really negative plus minuses going there for a while. And that's been rectified a little bit by how they found a way to use him as the center on this team. He's not a passer. His assist rate is at 5.4%. He's not been really wildly efficient this year. His points per scoring attempt are right at league average. They're way, way down from his days in Atlanta when he was such a efficient offensive player. We have not been as good with him on the floor defensively. That's a little bit of a tough thing because Walker's the one who plays the other minutes. So I think that's a little misleading for John, but it's been pretty dramatic. We're 9 points better defensively when he's off the floor than on the floor this year. And the team shoots 6 percentage points higher. But in defensive, John, that's never was the case in Atlanta. So I think that's a little bit to do with the fact that Walker is the other center. So John's been, definitely a talent upgrade from kind of nothing, right? That's what we paid for him. He's helped the team a great deal in this recent win streak. He's 26 years old. He's on a moderate contract. And I think you're still trying to figure out how to best figure out what his role is and how he fits and where it goes. I don't think that answer has been clear. Whereas Collin, I think, is really taking this jump where you're like, okay, that's a piece. I don't think John's as clear at this point, but the trending certainly has been better recently with him as we've found a way to use him, figure out what can be better. His plus minus has been dramatically better as the team has improved. He's definitely a large part of that. If you go back even just kind of most recently where we've won 6 of our last 8, he's shooting 60% from the field and averaging 14 points and 6 rebounds a game. It's really been a nice stretch for him. If you back it up even to the last 10 games or 12 games, he's averaging 14 points and 6 rebounds and shooting 57%, just 29% from 3 in that stretch. So we'll see how that one plays out. I think that one's still kind of undefined. On the kids or the developmental pieces, it's super interesting right now. So there's 6 of them in my mind. There's Kessler, Keyonte, Ochai. I'm put into this group, but he's 23. Luka Saanic I put in this group because he's 20, just turned 24. He's the exact same age as Ochai. Taylor Horton-Tucker's 23, and then Taylor Hendricks is 17 or 19. Excuse me. And Bryce Sensabaugh probably should be in that group too, but we just honestly haven't seen enough Bryce Sensabaugh to give much of an evaluation on it. So let me start with Walker. His defense is truly amazing. He is one of the most impactful, and particularly now he comes off the bench and plays bench players, he is truly one of the most impactful defensive players in the NBA. And so this kid has a piece. There are a few things here where he's still got to get a lot better. His body has got to develop into a stronger, bigger force. He's basically undermanned every night physically right now. When you go up against Zubac and Jokic and Valanciunas tomorrow, and even Isaiah Hartenstein's bigger than he needs to actually look at Isaiah Hartenstein, figure out if he can become like an Isaiah Hartenstein player right now. In the last rankings, I think he was in the Ringer. I think he made the top 100. It made him the 22nd ranked center in the NBA. And I actually thought the ranking might be a little generous. So there's just, he's really doing great things, but there's still a long way to go. He's got to get to a point. Two things. We can't be playing 5-on-4 on offense when he's on the floor. He's got to find a way, whether it's sliding down the baseline, dunking, whether it's catching and making plays, whether his hands have got to get stronger right now. He's getting it ripped a decent amount. Again, defensively, he's unbelievably elite, but we've got to find a way for him to be successful offensively. I mean, it was interesting. If you kind of go back and rewatch that overtime, like it was all the best and worst of Walker against Houston, where like he makes some defensive plays on Şengün, and then he commits an offensive foul on a pick, and then he gets an and one on the other side defensively. It still shows he's 22 years old and developing against Şengün's only 21. Şengün's just way better than he is. Like Şengün's awesome. So I think that's it. The other one is like, quite honestly, this free throw thing is real. Like this is he's went 3 of 6 down the stretch his last 5 games. I mean, it's been going on for a long, but last 5 games, he's now 6 of 16. Like it just cannot become a bugaboo for him. Like this is kind of the big, like ugly white elephant behind his development that is like, that has got to get to a point where it doesn't impact the rest of your game or impact how we can play you. But I think Walker is developing as a 22nd pick of the draft, as one of the elite defensive players in the league, which is awesome. And he's got to find a way to improve his body, his physical skills. And then also, like, our pick and roll game is terrible. Like, I think at one point this year, Keyonte and Talen Horton-Tucker were the last 2 guards in pick and roll efficiency, and somewhat that's on them, but it's also the combination of everything, right? We've got to get a pick and roll game with Walker we just don't have right now. So that would be the developmental piece on Walker. All right, we'll touch on Keyonte, Ochai, some of the other young guys, and the veterans as we continue here on the mid-season assessment of the Utah Jazz here on Locked On Jazz. Today's episode, or the upcoming segment of Locked On Jazz, is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, convenient, flexible online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. I like to think about therapy as performance enhancing. So if you have some things in life that are causing you problems, that you're wondering why you keep getting the same binds, why am I in this quagmire again? Why did I destroy another relationship? Woohoo, me when I was single. Why, what are the things that are causing me to do these things? Then this is where I think therapy can be really, really, really valuable to you, and it can enhance your performance. BetterHelp is completely online, incredibly convenient. You're designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to fit your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So celebrate the progress you make with therapy and become a better human, better person to be around, better enjoyment for your own self. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On. FanDuel, all sorts of fun and exciting things for you at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You can take lines on the future of the NBA. You can take NFL championship games. What are the opening lines on the 2 NFL championship games? The Ravens are 3.5 favorites over the Chiefs, and the Niners are a 6.5 point favorite over the Detroit Lions, plus all sorts of other fun things there. Tonight, the Bucks and the Pistons play, and as expected, the Bucks are a 12-point favorite over the Detroit Pistons. NBA Finals right now, I would assume the Boston Celtics still the best odds at plus 300. Denver's at plus 430. Milwaukee's at plus 440. The Clippers at plus 950, and the 76ers are at plus 1,200 with the Suns. To make the playoffs, you could bet whether you think your Utah Jazz are going to make the playoffs, I think. And the Jazz to make the playoffs right now are plus 710, and no is minus 1,300. That's all over at FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On. And here's a great opportunity for you from FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen today. All right, let's get to Keyonte and Ochai. So, I'm going to be totally honest. I think Keyonte's hit the wall. I hope he's hit the wall because I saw 3 things that I really didn't like this week. And I'm going to hope, and I'm going to probably be overplaying them and being too worried about Keyonte on this, but I will share with you in all honesty. So one was in a key play of the game the other night. He high-stepped it up the outside of the sideline. Maybe he's just playing. And maybe I'm old school, but I didn't need it. Pretty big play. It was unnecessary. Maybe it gets him in a rhythm. I don't know his game that well. Seems really minor, but to me, it was like a looseness. And considering that once a night he's throwing a pass cross court that gets intercepted for a dunk, that looseness linked over to me. Number 2 was the other night he ran a play and he lofted a pass over to the right wing and he lollygagged a jog cut to the corner. And he didn't play the second half. And I'm glad. I don't know. Right? I don't know. He's not playing hard. And the third one, and again, you can all decide I'm overplaying this, was when after he lollygagged the cut, Aaron Holiday came in the game. It's like, oh, this kid doesn't play hard. And Aaron Holiday punked him and stole it from him at 93 feet, laid it up, and then came back and ran right up his chest. And honestly, blast him. Like it was a little bit of the Delonte West finger in the ear of Gordon Hayward moment. To me. I think he's mentally hit the rookie wall. But I would like to see him play harder. And if you don't play hard in this league, you're not going to make it. The other thing is the ball needs to go in. He's shooting 37% from the field and 33% from 3. The kid's terrifically skilled. Don't misunderstand. And I've said this 100 times. I don't ever think rookies are good. I don't expect them to be good. I don't expect them to help you to win. They never do. It's brutally hard in this league. And like, I will never evaluate a rookie based on their numbers, their rookie year, and say yes or no. Like, right? Durant shot 41%, LeBron shot 42%. They turned out to be 2 of the top 10 offensive players in the history of the game. So I'm not like saying he's shooting 37, 33 and being like panic, but I'd like to see the ball going. The track record on guys who shoot below 40 and below 33% from 3 in their career in their rookie year is not good. Like that's kind of a benchmark level. So there's a little bit of that. But the bigger picture to me is I think he's hit the rookie wall. I'm curious to watch when he comes out of it. He's making shots. which is fine. Like, he's actually making his three at a much higher level, which is really exciting because I just said he's got to make shots. So, like, let's give him credit for that. Like, I think if I looked at it last night, I think he's 8 of his last 21 from three, which is terrific. He was going to the free throw line a lot. He has not gone to the free throw line. His minutes are way down. I think Will's seen the same thing that I'm talking about. We're minus 24 with him on the floor in the last 24 minutes he's been on the floor. Like, I think he just is fried. So we'll see. Still a long way to go in the process, but that is not going to be a linear train. He's the 16th pick of a draft. He could be really, really good one day. He's got a lot of skills and a lot of gumption, and he understands the game, and he likes the game, and he's into it. I just think he's completely crashed against the rookie wall right now and somehow needs a mental break. I think one of the great things that happened this year is he got hurt, so he got out of the starting lineup. I was a little concerned of where his trajectory in the starting lineup, because I thought it was a lot. Ironically enough, one of his last games in the starting lineup, he scored 30 points. But it was in a blowout against Oklahoma City. On Ochai, kind of the same thing is true. Like, the ball's got to go in. Ochai's, I think, interesting, and I talked to Ochai about this the other day, is that I actually think since his shot has gone awry, he's really struggling on the corner three. He's the best in the NBA for a long time. I actually feel like the rest of his game has gotten a bit better. Like, he's driving to the basket. He's creating opportunities for his teammates. He's not just on the outside. However, there are some kind of minor things that have to, if you're going to evaluate Ochai, he's getting older at 23 years old. He doesn't rebound much, and he doesn't go to the free throw line hardly at all. I don't think he's had more than one trip to the free throw line in more than, I think my memory is that the other night he went to the free throw line twice in a game. Or actually, I'll rephrase that. He took 3 free throws against Oklahoma City. It was the first time all year he'd taken 3 free throws in a game. He doesn't rebound a great deal. The other night he played 13 minutes. He had 0.0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 3 blocks. 3 blocks were awesome. So there's still a lot to go with Ochai's development of whether or not he's really a rotation player in the NBA. His 3-point shooting, which was really, really good, is now in a really big slump, and he's at 33% for 3 for the year. So he's just, the ball's got to go back in again. I think it will, but it's been a pretty big slump for about the last 15 games for Ochai, where I think he's shooting 11% from 3 over the last 12 games. I think he's 2 of his last 23 on corner threes. The ball's got to go in. I'll tell you what, on Talen, I'm not totally door shut. I've got the show's getting long. Talen, the door's not getting closed yet. I think there's actually some still skills there. The way the season played out. And obviously we've played better since he went off the floor, which is hard to deny. I still think there's some skills there. I know some scouts around the league think he's actually good. Luka Saanic, I wouldn't close the door on either. He just hasn't gotten time. He's the exact same age as Talen and Ochai. His body is unbelievable. He's 6'10", 227 pounds. I do wonder if he got 15 minutes a night, what would happen with him? He right now plays 2 and 3 minute stints every now and then. I think there's an incredible amount of pressure on him to make plays. I don't know how he ever gets 15 minutes a night, but I do think it would be really, really interesting. Taylor Hendricks, too early to evaluate, but everything kind of using him G League, getting him his minutes has been evaluated. And then on Clarkson, Dunn, Olynyk, and Simone, just because I'm now rushed to finish this up, I think the most interesting one is Simone. Simone's really had a breakthrough year. Jordan at 31 years old, Kelly at 32 years old are kind of who they are. Dunn at 29 years old has proven his value. In regards to trade deadline, it's unlikely that Kelly Olynyk's going to be with us at 35, or Jordan's going to be with us at 35, or Dunn's going to be with us at 33 or 34. If something is offered at the trade deadline for those guys that makes sense, that helps us possibly in June of 2018 or 2019, I think you have to really consider it if you're the Jazz. There's also, some aspect of, I think there's got to be some evaluation of what's the best usage of minutes for this franchise heading down the final 30 games of the year. Who's the best players to be using those minutes to be the best that we could possibly be in 2028, 2029. while still being competitive in the culture that we talked about to open the show. But I think Simone's really interesting. Probably should talk about him more, but I don't know that he's been starting. I think he's wearing down. I don't know that he's a starter, but I do think at 6'8", 209 with his professionalism, how hard he plays, a 40% three-point shooter. To me, that's a piece of a puzzle to me that I would want to hold on to, who could give me 22, 24 minutes of really solid time each and every night. So I don't know where that takes us. I mean, I think just to sum it up, like I think the biggest things, the biggest positive have been the big picture, competitiveness, culture, finding new things, playing the right way, developing talent. Lauri is certainly everything we thought. I think Collin and Simone have really, really stepped forward. And I think youth development's hard. And Walker and Keyonte and Ochai have got a long way to go. And I just wouldn't totally, and Taylor, we don't know about yet. And I just wouldn't totally shut the door on Saanic and Horton-Tucker yet. And on the veterans, I think they've been great. Like the culture of the team is fabulous. They've led the team in the right ways. And I think Simone's been the biggest takeaway there. That is it. That is Locked On Jazz today. Hope you're doing great. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you. It's time now to send you over to the first ever 24/7 national sports stream, Locked On Sports Today. Back with you tomorrow from New Orleans. Have a good one.